It just gobbled up that little blue belly so quick. He just went.
Pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let roll call show.
Yeah, me. I like hearing Joel echo. Helps me hear him.
There's an echo in here and here.
That all the governing body is present. We have a quorum. Approval of the agenda. Have a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion.
Can I have a second to approve the agenda?
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded, we approve the agenda. Any further discussion?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yes,
Need a motion to amend the agenda under new business to add a medical/ambulance.
Where would you where would we want to add that? Where would we, is that new business, old business, new business?
New business.
Okay. And that is again what, Councilman Weaver?
Under new business to add medical/ambulance.
Can I have a second?
Second that.
Any discussion? None being, all in favor of adding C under new business, medical/ambulance discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passed. All in the affirmative. Can I have a motion to approve the amended agenda?
So moved.
Been moved by Ron Ankeny, Councilman Ankeny, excuse me, and Councilman Zep seconded. Any further discussion? None being, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passed. All in the affirmative. Any communications from the citizens? Yes, please step forward.
Jake Stetler. So the reason I came before you guys today is to discuss that 3-acre triangle just to the west, on the west side of town. So probably everybody knows at this point that I bought the place from the Walkers. And so out there we got some goats and some horses and what have you. Well, in 2017, Wyoming State Legislature did Title 11-28-106. It's any partition fences between properties where it's like the border between your place and my place. We have to split that fence 50-50. So I've got that right away through that triangle, which is on the deed now. So there's that road and then there's a fence. And so I got an estimate for the fence, which is $2,900, just approximately $3,000. It's not a written estimate, just a verbal estimate. And the reason for the expense is the weave, the added braces, and the gate. And so there's that one option that maybe we could do something with that. I mean, Wyoming statute says your town's liable for half that fence of actual cost. But if you're going to do it, let's do it right. But the other deal is statute 24-1-112, which is the construction and or repair of fences performed by WYDOT along the highway. Section C specifically, person having a custody or charge of livestock may, but is not obligated to, attempt to repair any fence in order to protect the livestock. So the reason I'm bringing all this up, I've talked to Chad with WYDOT and all my dang goats was walking right through the highway fence there. So I took it upon myself to just go along the highway, which is technically along the town's property. But the reason I did it is off of that state statute 24-1-112 that tells you to do what you got to do to keep your animals from getting hit. So I put a little bit of weave on there. And as by evidence today, everybody probably saw it on Facebook, my goats was out again. I got more to do. So what I am here need from you guys is to know, all right, what do you want me to do? I mean, you guys are the governing body of this town. The property belongs to the town. So as landowners, adjoining landowners, what I would suggest, we do nothing. Whoever, I know you guys are looking to sell that triangle, whoever buys it, I can work with them. We can split a fence so that whoever buys it is liable for half that fence. In the meanwhile, I got the weave up on most of the fence, so a lot of it, I'm still working on it. It wouldn't cost the town nothing. It wouldn't cost town a thing to do nothing. But because it deals with town property, I thought I should talk to you guys.
So, Mr. Stedler, what, if I understand correctly, what you're saying, you'd like to continue what you started and, for the protection and the safety of not only your animals, but the traveling public, to try to do the best you can to make that fence that is on town property bordering the highway going west towards Riverton, Highway 26, to try to make it goat proof.
Under the direction of YDOT, who I've been in, had conversations with, and they said just.
And they've given you the blessings to go ahead
And just put a little strip of weave across the bottom, and it ain't gonna cost you guys nothing, the town nothing. If you, or we can just cough up some dough, build that fence proper between the two properties, or leave it to the landowner when you sell it. Or just let me continue about my business under the direction of YDOT. Doesn't cost the town anything. Nobody has to do anything, but I don't.
And we can allow you to do this, and still, once we sell the property in the future, the fence between the two properties will be between you and the new landowner.
Right, yeah.
And at no cost to the town.
At no cost to town, whoever buys it we could work it out, the fence, and then you have to split actual cost, so. And another option is if you had like Buddy build it or whatever, but I know he's busy, and then send me a bill for the half of the actual cost. Or do nothing, which is what I'd like to do, but.
Well, do nothing with the fence, but you.
I mean, I do the fence, but I mean, the town does nothing. It costs nobody in town a dime. I work it out with the new landowner when you sell it.
I got no issue with that.
Not spending any money, it's improving the fence, not costing us anything.
I'd make a motion to the effect that Jake be allowed to continue goat proofing his fence.
This is the triangle you're talking
Or our
about. Yeah.
fence, the
Yeah.
highway
That's the
fence.
Quonset, that triangle.
That piece of highway fence right there, well, and on down, because I laid a bunch under the direction of YDOT, and I'm here because I'm not being sneaky about nothing. I'm being upfront, but I did do a bunch of weave on the bottom of the highway fence. I'm probably right to about there.
On this line.
That highway line, that's it. So I got to continue that. And so our options are either whoever somebody buys it, we build a fence right there on the property line. But that is the exact spot I'm talking about. That way, it doesn't cost anybody anything. My goats don't get run over. Nobody smashes a car or motorcycle. Or they end up over at Wintermotes. So that's happened today. Or they end up at the motel. But we're taking measures. I'm new to this whole farm and ranching business, and so it's a huge learning curve. Working my butt off, and I am making changes daily.
So was that a motion, Councilman?
Second.
Been moved, second by Councilman Weaver. Any further discussion?
How many feet is this?
I figured at 300 yards. Well, oh no, I don't know. We'd have to look at that. It's 300 yards is my northern property line across the towns. Is that the question?
Along the highway that you.
It's, I think, further than that. And I'm not replacing the fence. I'm adding a little bit of weave under the direction of YDOT to the bottom, just so goats don't walk through it.
Sort of like like a sheep fence or.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sheep weave.
Yeah.
Whatever. So it's just that the highway frontage, just this much of the fence to keep my goats from off the highway. Our other option is, like I said, along that straightaway,
I'm familiar with it.
build that fence right on the property line.
Did Chad say anything to you about YDOT coming through and putting in new
He
fence?
did. So we're
along
just trying to get by for a little while. We are on the slate, I guess, for YDOT to, it's already been sent.
Yeah, because they're going to do along the highways
Yep.
or something.
And they're gonna end up putting weave in it. The fence is, the YDOT's well aware that the fence is not suitable. And they've put in quite a while ago to get that repaired, I guess, but that's not happening at this time, hopefully soon. And Councilman Demick, you should get some cows too, because I got cows coming in from the north, cows coming in from the south. I was told this winter they're coming in from the east, so you should get some too. That way they'll come in
I
from the
got one in
west.
my freezer. It's a great spot. It's there every day.
Thanks for coming up and just bringing it up. I mean, most people have just done it and so
I
that was
didn't
nice of you. Thank you.
want it to be, it's all.
I wouldn't even have looked at it as sneaky, just you're fixing a dang fence that needs fixed. But thank
But
you.
it's you guys'
Yep.
fence, but it's YDOT's fence on you guys' property, so that's why I thought.
But you need to do something to protect your animals.
That's the whole purpose.
And potential wreck out there if somebody swerving and missing, go or whatever. Is there any further discussion? We've had none being, all in favor, saying aye. Give Jake permission to keep on doing what he's doing to protect his goats and the citizens with additional fence. Aye,
Aye.
opposed?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Motion passed, all in the affirmative.
Minutes in 2 days.
Any more communications from the citizens? Any more communications from citizens? None being. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Been moved and second, we approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? None being, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Agenda approved, consent agenda approved, all in the affirmative. Public hearing. Ordinance modification code 12-4, third reading.
Ordinance modification of code number 12-4, section F, ordinance amending section 4-12F, chapter 4, alcoholic beverages, as previously read on 22 June 2021.
Can I have a motion to approve ordinance modification of code number 12-4?
So moved. Second.
Been moved by Councilman Ankeny and second by Councilman Weaver. Any further discussion? None being, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion approved, all in the affirmative. Award of the equipment bids. So what we put out for bid, we were looking for a mini excavator and a skid steer. We had bids come in from John Deere, Caterpillar, and Bobcat. Did anybody got any question? The bids are actually, for two of the bidders were very close.
I have a question just from the way I looked at them. Did all of three the companies get the same information? It almost looked like the stuff from Bobcat went to the other two.
Well, all the bidders received the same information.
Okay.
There's some modifications made. I know in particular Caterpillar made some more modifications than others, and they put a justification of why they felt they made their modifications.
Sure.
And
Understood.
but The Director of Public Works, Bud Boyle, couldn't be here tonight to kick around this, but he reviewed the bids and
It was like $600 difference, something like that.
they were it was very close, very
Or between Bobcat and Cat.
between
Yeah.
Bobcat and Cat was
And then
very.
John Deere was.
John Deere was
way out.
quite a bit higher. Possibly John Deere may have added some things that wasn't asked for in the bid that they, but we ask everybody to bid the same thing to build, the specs. But there again, it was very, very, very close, but all three pieces of equipment, I think, were suitable, but the low bidder was Bobcat.
Which one did Buddy want?
Huh?
What did Buddy want?
Lowest bidder.
He wanted lowest, he didn't care on, then he just whatever was lowest. No difference to him on,
I think we're required by law to.
I don't know, I was just curious
Yeah.
where he was at, is all I'm asking.
He was, actually he was comfortable with all three. I mean, he didn't say, oh crap,
Mhm.
we don't want
That's what I was
this one.
trying to,
Yeah. No, he was comfortable with, as I was saying, with the low bidder.
Gotcha.
He was comfortable with all the machines. All machines probably have some pluses and minuses.
Mhm.
Like to ask our town attorney, am I right on my state statute on that, do you believe?
So you don't necessarily have to go with the lowest bidder so long as you can justify the reason why.
Correct, if they did not follow the bid spec.
Right, or if you have another reason, say if it's a contract between a local regional dealer versus an out-of-state region.
Sure, yes, yes.
So question for Chris, on equipment like this, is this stuff the town would anticipate having for its life, or would it use it for X number of years and anticipate a rotation?
On durable capital expense like this on heavy equipment, I would expect that it would be something we keep until its full lifespan for the amount of how we would use it and the amount of use that it would get here versus a more robust community that would use it a lot more frequently than we would. So we would probably have a full life expectancy out of it versus a traded thing. But that could be something we could look at if it was economical, that we could go back and forth. But I would expect it to last for going at least.
So if you put it in hours perspective, so we would say the life expectancy is 10,000 hours.
Sure.
So we would anticipate running it into that 10,000 hour versus putting 2,500 hours on it and planning to do a sell back to upgrade
Correct.
again in
I
5
don't,
years.
and talking with Buddy, I don't see that would be what would be envisioned to constantly upgrade with the newest model every 1 or 2 years or whatever it would be.
So it's long-term asset.
Correct.
Do we know the service charges for each of these companies? For repairs? And travel for mileage?
Expensive.
Well, one's out of Casper, one's out of, is the other one out of Sheridan, is that right?
No,
Cody.
Cody, okay, so roughly the same distance,
yes.
which really helps. I thought it was out of Sheridan.
No, it's out, they're out of Cody, and then, of course, one John Deere was out of Riverton, but they were substantially higher,
I saw that.
so they were substantially higher.
So that's something I also I'd look at is, what's the service cost for, a truck coming in? Or I see Cat trucks go through all the time. I don't know what, I don't see Bobcat that much.
Yeah, they're through all the time. They service quite a bit of Fremont County.
They're both the industry is expensive.
Right.
On
Yeah, I
on
know
the
that.
repair
But
truck.
I'm just saying, if we have to pay repairs and mileage and all that stuff, I thought it was out of shared for some reason.
I would put them, I would put things apples to apples, parts wise. I know that Cat and Casper is phenomenal when it comes to parts. Some of the Cat equipment that we've had over the years that I would have thought was obsolete. They said, oh, we got one right here on the shelf. There's not even dust on it. So there's a certain premium you pay for that. I've
Well,
learned, but
Caterpillar on, I don't know these minis, but on dozers, blades and stuff like that, Cat parts, used Cat, or seem to be more readily available if you got an older, a lot older machine, but these are newer machines
yeah.
and so that, I don't think that'd be probably not an issue.
I wouldn't either. No, I think where we're coming from, the odds of needing any service, very limited. Odds of needing parts, very limited. So you're up against either a brand preference, you're 100 miles either way.
Yeah.
But if we're going with low bid, then I would, which at that point, make a motion.
Yes.
I would make a motion to accept the low bid of Bobcat for the purchase of the skid steer mini excavator. I believe the sum is $54,876 for the skid steer and $73,544 for the mini X.
No second.
Total of what, one
128,
for 1905? Then moved and second that we approve the low bidder of 128 for 1905. Any further discussion? None being, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passed. Affirmative, all five. Permits, building permit, Matt DeMoe.
porch, fence.
Fence in your front yard, right, Matt?
That's right. We'd like to reestablish the fence in the front yard of our property that was originally there when we purchased the house. As well, alteration to the front
Yeah.
patio.
Reestablishing updated previous fence.
A motion to approve the fence.
I motion.
Been moved by Councilman Weaver, second by Councilman Zan. Any further discussion? None being, all fair say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same. Motion passed. All five in the affirmative. Confidence Builders Building Permit. What we got there?
It's the erection of their
It's for their
post, water,
RV park.
yeah.
Building permit for the RV park. Have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Councilman Ankeny, seconded by Councilman Weaver. Any further discussion?
Is this for any structures? Or is it
No, it's the,
just the actual pads?
yeah, and the, I guess the.
The
posts and
risers coming up
whatever.
out of the ground,
Yeah.
their electrical boxes coming out of the ground, that stuff.
Do we know, are they fencing any of that? Or would that matter? As far as they wouldn't have to come back for another permit if they want,
Fencing would be separate, yeah, but
but as of now, they're not anticipating fencing. Or any of that.
I know.
We don't know. Or putting up pavilions or, I don't know the extent of the project, just.
The original plans talked for a little outbuilding,
uh,
dog run and a little laundry or something like that, shower.
So would this cover? Okay. It doesn't say on the permit is why. I
Yeah,
asked. It's
right,
just-
yeah, no, this,
It just says new.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, so it's just for what they currently have with
Yeah.
the posts coming up and the electric out boxes and whatnot. Any further alterations or additions per construction, they'd have to give it a plan and then reapply for that separately.
Okay.
Any further discussion? And being all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the same?
Actually, would you mark me down as abstained?
Oh, excuse me.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Councilman Zent was abstained,
Mhm,
4 in the affirmative.
mhm. Thank you, sir.
Jordan Whitener, open container. What do we,
It's for the concert.
okay. Mr. Whitener, would you mind telling us a little bit about it?
Yeah, so the idea is I, on my own dime and willing with a partner, we have contacted a musician, and we have a musician coming in on July 24th, an acoustic musician with live music to be held at the new park in the band shelter that's tentatively going to be done. And that being said, the idea behind it was the basketball court and everything else is there kind of for the kids. That was the big push. Now it's kind of something that we want to piggyback and provide something for our community members to enjoy. And I guess if we get other county members involved, then obviously they can enjoy the deal as well. But that being said, with live music coming in, the idea would be able to allow open container at this point.
What was the time that you're wanting the open container and plan on? music?
So for the musician and the DJ that, so the original idea was we were hoping for 2 musicians. That way there wasn't just one sitting up there the entire time strumming their fingers off till they bled. So the DJ is basically going to be a break with requestable music in between the current musician we have, but the times would be from 7:30. I think ideally it'd be fair enough to not go later than midnight would be my suggestion. I think 5 hours of open container time is probably enough. I don't want to shoot for 2 a.m. and scraggle a bunch of noise and then a bunch of overly intoxicated people. By no means we want to be able to continue to do this.
Any questions for
Chris, is there a possibility you can pull up the flyer that we kind of put in? And the problem with that is you'll see that I put open container in there on the current flyer. I may have pulled the gun a little soon on that. Reason being was trying to get musician to come. Just about 90% of them ask if there's an open container allowed because they know people ain't going to come out and enjoy music in small towns unless there's. I talked to one musician that was willing to do without the open container, and he was of the upwards of $4,000. Which
We'll make a note, though, that open container does not mean intoxicated pedestrians
Right.
also waived. So there's still.
right. Still a note that you can't just be riled.
Like lots of towns do this. I don't have a problem with it. I think it's good for the town.
I mean, yeah.
To me, like the co-sponsor has a lot of pull with the police department. On your permit, it says 7 on the application. It's 7, Jordan.
7:30
Oh, 7:30.
is the time it would start.
Happy hour before.
Pardon me.
It'll start at 7, give you 30 minutes of happy hour
And
before.
you're
So,
going to contain it just to the park and not to the street?
Yeah, the street. So I mean, if the street right now, I kind of, put a word out to some of a Facebook group online called Food Trucks of Wyoming. If there was any vendors that were interested in that, I've stopped and spoke with KT's about maybe staying open a little later to have an option for food. But yeah, nothing as a food truck have committed at this point.
Okay.
So at this point, there's no need to block off the street or anything at this particular juncture.
Did you make a motion or you just said you had no problem with it?
No, I just said no problem. I'll make the motion though, that we approve.
Liquor license. I'll second it.
Councilman Weaver made a motion to approve the open container permit for Jordan Whitener. Councilman Zant seconded. Any further discussion? None being, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion passed, all five in the affirmative.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jordan.
We have no scheduled appearances by citizens. Public presentation, is that correct? Unfinished business, new business. Rules of order.
Oh, that was, I had Chris put that on there just so I could hand out the information without having to, you just got it. There's no sense in discussing it. It's just some ideas that I found on the web that you can look over at your leisure, add to, subtract from, whatever.
I think very good. I would suggest that we try to look forward at a work session sometime in the relative near future and do a work session on it.
No, 'cause it's going to be an ordinance anyway, so.
I think it's some good input there.
I was going to email it to everybody, but I'm still not clear on what I can and can't email to whom without circumventing the Open Meetings Act. So I just thought, I'll just hand it out here.
Sure. Well, yeah, it's, you can always say, I know that our attorney could probably advise you better, but if you put on your email, don't respond to my email like I've done at times.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm not asking for a vote or trying to make a circumvent. Yeah. I believe you could pass something out for information.
Yeah,
I'm not
that's all I
expecting a vote or trying to get a conversation with a majority to get a quorum, so just information.
Sure.
This is for your information and don't even ask for a response.
But anyway, that's all I wanted to do, just get it handed out. And if anybody had anything they wanted to say,
Okay.
I did research that quite a bit, and it appears that it's one of those deals where Robert's Rules of Order has been adopted by a billion different organizations and none of them follow it anyway. So it's kind of a, well, and then there was, I remember somebody in the audience said that it's pretty easy to weaponize that to bring everything to a standstill. So I looked into that and that's a viable concern. So we need to go with something that's just bare bones, in my opinion.
I agree.
And, and if you want to,
But I think it's good.
suspend it, then we do. But,
No, I think that's something we ought to look at.
Yeah.
It could sort things out.
sure.
We really don't have, you pointed out, we really don't have a guide, an official guideline that I can find anywhere.
Yeah, I couldn't either.
So, but we'll work on that.
Good.
May get some guidance from legal counsel on that also and be involved in that conversation. But good.
All right. Thanks.
Chief, would you address the dog shelter? Sure. This is sort of a serious issue, guys.
So we've had a long time where there's not been an animal control officer or any kind of dog shelter in Shoshoni, as everyone knows. And so a lot of the problem when we have dogs at large or any animal issues, we're kind of limited here locally what we can do. A lot of times I know who the owner is through an idea whether I pick the dog up and I return them, or sometimes the owner will contact us through the various forms of media and report the dog is lost or out, and I find them, I can take them back, they're looking for them, not a big deal. Well, a lot of things kind of came to a head over the last 3 weeks, well, actually last month, and with the high temperatures and heat, There were some dogs that were outside without access to food, water, and shelter in 105-degree heat. One was chained up and was unable to get out and do anything. So we fed and watered the dog for a few days to make sure it was safe. But at some point, not being able to contact the owner, we had to take the next step and actually protect the dog's lives, seize the dogs. Unfortunately, the entire county seemed to be having some kind of a similar problem because there was no shelters anywhere in Fremont County that could take them. The only place that could house them was the stock dog, which they were willing to do, and they did. So the dogs remained in their care. There were some things that with our current ordinances that are required for dogs that are taken, one being that they have to be vaccinated against rabies before they can even be returned back to their owner. So then the next issue came with a large amount of dogs that I know a lot of the community members have not only been asking, citizens have not only been asking, but kind of demanding that something be done about them. And we did do something about them. Again, citations were issued for animal abuse in both cases. But these dogs, some were aggressive, some required extensive medical treatment because they were injured. When I say extensive, I don't mean open surgery or anything like that, but they required medical assistance from a veterinarian. Both of the cases, citations were issued and restitution, but the facilities that the veterinarians that house these dogs aren't going to just return a dog to someone that doesn't pay the bill. When they don't release the dog that doesn't pay the bill, then they keep him. And that boarding every day adds and adds and adds and adds and adds. So at some point, whose responsibility is it? Well, unfortunately, someone's got to pay the bill, which in this case is us. But there's restitution associated with the citations as they go through court. Whether that restitution is fully paid, when it's fully paid, I don't know. So this is kind of a two-part thing. One, I never budgeted monies for animal control because we haven't had to use them. The total bill right now as it stands is about $3,900. The second companion part to that is that we need a viable plan. Now, I've been working with PAWS on getting a contract. Unfortunately, getting supplies to build the kennels that we could then lease and pay as Fremont County does is not an option right now. Everyone's either sold out or doesn't have the components, so we can't really do that. So the second option besides that would be to construct our own shelter here with 2 or 3 kennels, possibly in the city shop area, where we could release the dogs when they are, and then charge a boarding fee when the owner comes to pick them back up, as well as their citation, as other municipalities do, such as Lander. That would somewhat offset some of the costs, but it would ensure that we have a local place to take the dogs where they are taken care of and they are humanely looked after in that environment. So those are the 2 options I have for that. I think PAWS would obviously be a simple one because they already had the facilities, but it costs extra money versus constructing one. We don't really have, other than the upfront cost, it's just feeding and watering them. And then you can also charge a service fee for that time and recoup some of the cost of taking care of other people's dogs. So what I'm looking for in this case is transferring. We could do one of 2 things. We have a surplus in our budget. I don't think it's needed at this time to increase the budget. I would ask that transfer $4,000 from capital expenses into the police department's animal control budget to cover the cost of the boarding. And then I would also ask to use up to $3,000 of that to facilitate the construction and or acquiring the kennels with PAWS for future use. So for a total of $7,000 from the capital expense general fund is what I would request.
What about the kennels that you had down by the treatment plant at one time? Are they outdated, unacceptable? I know there's a big storage can down there. What about that?
We could refurbish it and bring it up to par and
Oh, I'm thinking that to that town shop,
Yeah, that was just a,
okay,
I mean,
because that's where they were previously established.
so we could restore that and get that going, and we could do it here locally. And that would, whatever that cost may be. The only thing I would transfer would be from that account to that account would be $4,000. The rest would stay in capital expenses. That would be a project that we could build on.
How big a structure do you think you need?
Maybe 10 by 8.
Like the size of a shed, like we
Yeah.
see over
Yeah,
here?
basically.
Like
yeah,
a chicken coop that they build?
Kind of, yeah. And they just.
Well, there's an old container down there. The problem with that is I think the heat, the
That's-
cold, and so how to tie that in with the, if you can get something out of the treatment plant for electricity.
Yeah, get a little AC unit or something just to cool down in the summer. I think winter would probably be okay with insulation and being enclosed in that environment. I think they'd be okay without necessarily a high density heater, but
The other part I remember about that, it did not have separate units for each dog. The dogs were a lot of times allowed to mix with each other.
right. And so we would want to build or construct or refurbish it so it had at least
Separate
3
units.
separate departments to be able to house them. And then basically we would check on them, work the officers when they come on in the morning, would go feed water, and then the evening officer would do the same, make sure they were let out to do their business and whatnot in closed space until they pick up their owners. So it's kind of a 2-part thing.
Who's in charge of the livelihood of the animals at that point? Does it fall to the police department or to Buddy and his crew?
It would fall to the police department up until a actual animal control volunteer or contract of some sort was reached, and then it would fall on them. I would say that under our ordinances, if we did have an appointed animal control officer, they could actually enforce animal control laws and write citations into municipal court without being a police officer in most cases, like dog at large, rabies tags, things of that nature. So there's some things that could be, but right now it'd be the police department.
So you have to go down and feed them and check on their livelihood.
At least twice a day, yeah. They come in the morning, they come on shift, and then the officer would do the same.
Chris, if I understood correctly, then if the owner wants their dog back, essentially part of this cost would be recovered through court.
Correct. And so my hope would be, even though we would transfer the $4,000
Right.
out of the capital expense, that when we receive it back, then we'd be able to receive it and modify that back up and commensurate with what was received.
Part of the recovery is the ability of the dog owner to pay.
Yeah.
And some of them may not have the ability to pay.
In that case, Doug says, I don't want my dog back. What are you gonna do?
Well, then at that point, they signed a release like we did with 2 of the dogs, and they actually waived the fees with that, or else it would have been higher. They were adoptable dogs. One was a German Shepherd puppy, and they agreed to release the dog for adoption. And I worked out a deal with Stock Doc where they waived the majority of the fees, and then the owner of that paid half of that, so that was taken care of that way. If they don't want the dog, they'll either be destroyed if they're not adoptable, or they'll be transferred at no cost for adoption.
And at what point do you get relinquished from are you cradle to grave on this? You go pick it up and it's up to, it ultimately comes back to your department to say, we took it here or we euthanized or.
The problem with dogs is they are a tangible thing. They're the property. So I can't relieve somebody of their property without due process, no more than I could take something off your front porch. But there is a process for that to take place, abandonment, things of that nature, in which case they would fall on us to either have it disposed of or adopted. But we have partners that we can take them to adoption clinics. That's what they do. Adoption doesn't cost us anything at that point if they're going to be adopted. It's the boarding with the expectation that they're going to go back to somewhere is where that cost comes into that. So this would alleviate that if we had either a contract where we pay the nominal amount and supply our own kennels, or we have one locally where we could take them and then take care of it that way through our ordinances. When they came to pick up their dog, before they received it, they would have to pay, they'd be issued a citation, and they'd also have to pay the boarding costs that we charge and assess for our taking care of the animals on their behalf.
Is it something where you can, is it contractable through Fremont County or through it? If you pick up a dog here in Shoshoni, say we've got a dog in our holding pen, and somebody from the stock dog, for example, they come out here and pick it up and do their thing, or just not?
We would have to transport it. And like Paws is the county contracts through, as well as Riverton, and they're willing to do the same with us. If we write the MOU and come up with those terms, but we have to provide the kennels, we have to provide that, and then we have to pay whatever the negotiated fee is for them to do so.
It's probably not a lot of dogs in a year anyway. Less than 10.
Here, we've had 12 dogs here in the last 3 weeks. Those are the ones we actually had to take custody of, not including the ones that we pick up continuously and bring back.
Wow. What about cats?
We don't deal with cats.
What about when somebody has 500?
Get a trap. Cats don't usually come. They usually run.
But I don't remember recently spending as much money on a dog issue.
Like I said, it really has come to a head here recently.
Huh.
I'm sure there's a couple people here now that know exactly what I'm talking about with some of these dogs and what nuisance they became.
All I was gonna say is money coming back. If the dogs are in that situation and that's what happened, 9 times out of 10, the owner probably is not gonna end up getting money for a citation.
Jordan Mellon, would you please come up and speak?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate you,
I
man.
thought we were at round table or something like that. No, I was just saying that I think if, in this situation, I would say if the dogs were in that living condition, and just my point of view, I mean, take it for what you want, but I would say that the owners probably, if they're going to leave their dog behind without food and water in 105-degree heat, chances are they could give two hoots about paying for that animal. And so then what?
We had a local kennel that would give us the ability to take that dog into protective custody that wouldn't cost anything extra until it's resolved through either court or some other mechanism to resolve it.
So I guess where I look at it as is how can you generate enough money in that sense for it to be feasible?
It's not meant to be feasible.
Yeah,
It's meant to cut costs from having to store them somewhere else.
Well, I get that, but what I'm saying is if you're picking up a dog constantly, at what point, like, I don't know. I look at it as it's going to be the same person constantly.
Which is where we'd have the ability to go through the courts and the judge can take a court order. That's just due process. That's what we have to go through. So there is a mechanism for that to happen where it doesn't become a continuous process. They are relieved of their animal and they are done it through the legal ways.
And then my next thing is what happens when you pick up a dog and it just got hit by a car and its back leg's hanging there. Then what? Do you make the decision I put it down, or do you take it to the vet? And then if you take it to the vet to save its life, then at what point is the town liable or is the owner liable?
I mean, that's a separate issue for what I'm going through here, but yeah.
I just look, or even like this, you seize the dogs because they're they're being abused as they should be seized. Then what? Like same deal. How are you gonna? Even if you have your own facility, all my question is, I guess, in a roundabout way, is how is it going to be not just a constant red thing? Is it gonna, you know what I mean? Because the ones that aren't taking care of the dogs probably are the ones that can't afford to pay the fine.
But what I was talking, I think we're getting way out in the weeds of what I was actually talking about,
Okay.
what the actual issue is. Those are completely separate things that this isn't meant to address. I guess that's the best way I can explain that. If someone's dog gets hit in town, I would go speak with them, or hopefully they're out there, and they would pay the fee to put the
Well,
dog
what,
down.
so, yeah, I guess I got out in the weeds too, but what I'm trying to say is if you go and seize these dogs, even though you have a holding facility, let's say this whole scenario happens again and you seize these dogs, you mentioned some of them had to be seen by the vet.
Yeah, one did.
So that's my next question. I guess that's what I was trying to get at. The dog needs seen by the vet, so then what? You take it to the vet
Goes
and
through
the
same
expense is
process.
the town, and we hope
Cost-
that,
Unfortunately, it's the cost of doing business. I mean, all I can do is the legal process and go through the due process, and that's all I can do.
I think Chris's suggestion is trying to reduce the cost to the community that,
well, I'm just
to
trying
do
to see
this.
how you can make sure you get
can't.
these people to be liable. I mean, you put a judgment on them,
Can't take away their birthing rights.
you garnish you garnish their wages. I mean, how are you gonna?
I think the attorney can maybe show that on that, but with a court judgment or restitution, it
Is there like a
changes.
minimum they have to pay every month?
It's be the same as any judgment.
Last I called, when I put a judgment on somebody, the minimum was $7. That's a long damn time to get your money back.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
All right, so the way the process works is you have the court down municipal court. They get their citations and their fines. If they don't pay, well, then we go back and do a contempt of court. And then from there, the decision is made whether or not to take it to the circuit court where we have to try to get a judgment, which I imagine is what you were just talking about.
Correct.
Okay. So then that gets settled. And then again, if they don't pay again, then we end up going into contempt of court again. At some point, it ends up being a bigger issue. So
Okay, I just
it's
was,
there's no shortcut to it to make it quick and assured way as to getting your money back but that is the process to make sure.
which I figured. I just was thinking that the ones that you're having the problems with are going to be the ones that are going to pay.
I think we all kind of are prepared for that.
Fair enough.
Bob Streeter. This is a humanitarian effort, and I salute you all for it. Chris, how much of a donation you want to help out on this? 50, 100?
If you could help me build it and reduce the cost of the town, I'll
Done.
take that.
Absolutely fantastic idea. I've seen these dogs suffer around town we get around. And it's just a good thing you guys are doing.
Thank you. Agrees, I might not be out there helping you.
I have a limited attention span. I won't last that long today.
Thank you.
That's mine.
It's
I
limited.
see you working all the time, so I thank you.
Anybody else have like to say anything about this from the audience or council members either?
Do I need to go back and clarify what I was requesting?
Hey, yeah, let's go back and clarify the movement of money
Okay.
from
How
hardware.
about how about I make the motion and then you word it for me?
So,
So-
the easiest way is, rather than increasing our budget using any of our surplus monies, is just at this point in the year, just moving money from the capital expense general fund, which has $30,000 originally attributed for a water buffalo, moving 4,000 of that into the line item for the police departments for animal control expenses. And then spending up to $3,000 to refurbish, remodel, and build, construct a kennel here in town. Up to, not necessarily, I don't know exactly how much that cost would be. That's why I say that. So it'd be two separate things. That's what
But all the money's coming out of capital.
Correct.
I move we move $7,000 out of the capital fund for improvements of dog shelter and paying for dog meals.
Second.
Been moved by Councilman Zen, second by Councilman Weaver, that we move $7,000 out of the capital expense fund, out
Capital expense general.
of the capital expense general fund that was earmarked for the water buffalo to help with the construction of a shelter and
Police departments, animal control.
police department's animal control vet bill. Amount of $7,000. The $3,000, $4,000 that towards the medical bills, not up to $3,000 for the construction. Can I have a motion for what I just said? Oh, we got it.
Yeah.
Second, we got a second? Okay, we have motion, second. Any further discussion? That was so long I got lost. Any further discussion? None being, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, the same. Motion passed, 5 in the affirmative. Medical and ambulance. Want to discuss a little bit about this, Chris?
Sure. So I will say we do have a medical director now for our Shoshoni ambulance service. Dr. Myers out of Lander has agreed to be our medical director for that. So there's still some other steps in this process, what that's ultimately going to look like. But the biggest thing, again, things that kind of come to a head, we've had 7 calls for service here around Shoshoni, medical calls here recently, in the last 2 months. I will say that people who live in Shoshoni are very hardy and they take care of themselves. They don't call when their stomach hurts or they have a headache. They drive themselves to the hospital. They drive themselves to the clinic. They drive themselves, they take care of themselves. So when we get a call for service here for a medical problem, it's not a minor issue. It's something that generally is life or death. For instance, Sunday. So just so happens that Officer Leaf Green was on and I was both on at the same time. We were doing a crossover. We have a little bit of that overlap. We have 2 officers on. And we got a request 911 call right outside the new plaza on the sidewalk there, the Main and Wyoming, or Main and 2nd Street, for a cardiac arrest. Jeff was the first one on scene. He arrived about 30 seconds after the call. I arrived about 30 seconds after that. Jeff immediately assessed the patient and commenced CPR. Now, Jeff is an intermediate EMS as well. So he does have a little bit of a medical bag and some equipment. So he began CPR, and then I arrived, and being that this was his case, I asked him, I did my part, he did his part. So he was given instruction and what needed to be done, how it needed to be done. But what we didn't have was any other services. It was Sunday, everything was closed, and the ambulance was 25 minutes away. Someone's in cardiac arrest, and we're doing CPR on the side of the road with mouth-to-mouth breaths. I didn't have any other equipment to help with life-saving care. Our AEDs that we had, the batteries would dry in about an hour. If there was an issue with them, they didn't work. So I went to the medical clinic and I took their life pack and I took their oxygen and I took their tubing. It came back to the scene. So we provided her oxygen and delivered 2 electric shocks to her and continued CPR for 25 minutes until the ambulance arrived. Upon their arrival, we got her heartbeat back. She had a heart rate. They transported her to the hospital, of course, with a heart rate and breathing on her own. She was later stabilized within an hour. She was stable enough to be flown to Casper, where she is still recovering and being treated. I can't say enough how impressive it was in that environment with Jeff and the job he did. We had 3 firefighters. You're welcome. They just happened to be driving by and stopped, and they're also EMS, full-time EMS firefighters. They just happened to stop and they assessed with chest compressions and trying to evaluate the patient. But that equipment we had, and the ability to provide her with forced oxygen, as well as a 3-lead EKG so we could see what her heart rate was and make sure that the chest compressions were effective chest compressions, circulated her blood and perfused the oxygen that allowed her to survive. It was just a miracle in that aspect that all those things came together at that exact time. Not very often you hear of someone that has CPR for 30 minutes outside or even in an ambulance and survives. So hats off to Jeff. I mean, it was really smooth. The thing that I had a problem with is that while I'm standing there, not standing there, but helping, the family was great, and the scene, we did a great job with that. But the hardest thing is they're here in Shoshoni having to tell her grandfather, her kids, and her grandkids, where's the ambulance? I don't know. 30 minutes out? I don't ever want to be in that position again. And I hate to say it, but it could be any of us. And I'm not going to stand back and do nothing about it. We have the ability to do something, and we're going to move forward with that as best as I can present to council to do. We do have the medical director, but what that showed is a glaring need for medical equipment here now. We have the ability, we have people that can do things. We have people that show up, that drive by, that have medical experience, knowledge, certifications, that can act. What we lack is the equipment. I did acquire 2 AEDs from the sheriff's office. They got brand new ones, so they gifted us 2 of their newer ones, but they're still used ones. So now we have 2 AEDs. We have an AED in every patrol vehicle that's functional, has batteries and pads, so we're good there. I did expend about $600 in the medical clinic supplies, but I did let them know that I took it and they were okay with it. So getting back on the medical aspect of things, we have $111,000 in ARPA funds that I've discussed during the budget stuff is confined to what we can spend it on. Most of what we would actually be able to do here in Shoshoni is infrastructure and or medical. At the time, we believed that the radio reads as part of the water study was needed to get done. It was going to get done. We had to get it done at some point, and so we were going to use those funds to do so, which was about $83,000. Budgeted, we weren't quite sure exactly what our funds were going to be, so we figured 100,000 is actually going to be 111,000. So we actually got a little bit more than we had anticipated. So what I would ask is not new money or anything of that nature, but I would ask the council to designate $25,000 for medical equipment and supplies for the town of Shoshoni that we have, using Dr. Myers as a reference of what we need, what our abilities are, and how we can use it. One of the things would be a Lucas device. We are way out here, and a Lucas device. So it is an automated chest compression device. For those unaware, and since we are so far out there, that showed 25 minutes of CPR is a long time to be doing CPR. And if you only have 1 or 2 people, you're going to get less and less and less and less effective as you go. That Lucas device would ensure, as best we can, that those are done. We would have it here. But it's a twofold thing, is that when and if we get an ambulance, not if, when we get an ambulance here, that equipment would then port over into that ambulance. We already have it, we own it. Versus having an ambulance that's here, then decides maybe they want to leave. If we don't own it, we don't administer it. This gives us that capability, but also gives us the capability of every one of our patrol vehicles, essentially a mobile EMS vehicle without transport capabilities or monitoring capabilities. But the level of equipment inside of it would rise to the level of an intermediate EMS. That way, if I'm a basic EMS, I have what I can do. I have more than I can do in my vehicle. However, I can only do so much. You have a splinter, whatever is a basic. But now somebody stops by on the side of the road that is an intermediate EMS. They're not going to be much more effective than I am right now. But if I have the equipment and gear that allows them to exceed my capabilities, now they have the equipment to do so, and they can take that next step to provide care that otherwise wouldn't be done if I didn't have that equipment. You know, it could be a doctor that shows up, but if they don't have any equipment, they can, it doesn't matter what their scope or what their skill level is in that procedure or that incident, they can only do the same as anybody else. And so that would be part of that, is getting that, which would cost about roughly $2,000 per vehicle, so $6,000 for there. And then the remainder would be for like a Lucas device and some other equipment that we would have that would be here locally, with the idea of it being a call that we would pick it up and take it with us. That way it can be utilized wherever we're going, whether it's Shoshoni, outside, or wherever. But when we do get an ambulance, it would be the same equipment that would be on the ambulance and needed for the ambulances too. So it would serve an immediate need purpose as well as an extended purpose when we have an ambulance here. And then now we have a medical director, we're working on grants to actually acquire an actual ambulance. And I know there's still some discussions to be had with the county on maybe getting a vehicle for that as well. So all I'm asking in this case is just to earmark $25,000 of the unallocated ARPA funds for medical equipment for the town, not the clinic, but for the town.
What do you have for jump kits now in your vehicle? Or is it more like a first aid kit? I mean, can you do cardiac, gunshot wounds, all that stuff?
I have a hemostatic gauze, so I can plug some holes. I can do some basic splinting right now. Jeff had I always mess with an ambu bag for that, but I would want to get oxygen in all our vehicles. And then the estimate from Dr. Myers was about $1,600 to $2,000 that we could have a bag that would be equivalent to what a paramedic would have with him, minus the other stuff in the ambulance. You know, of course, the monitoring devices and stuff, we wouldn't carry that, but we could at least have it that way. So we are on seeing whatever the capability of that officer is for medical, he's an intermediate. Andrew's a basic. I was a combat medic a long time ago. I plan on going back and getting recertified in Wyoming. But the point is not just so much what we bring, it's that we go somewhere and then somebody stops that is a doctor or paramedic or nurse, whatever, and they have the capability, but we have the equipment. And that care can be given. So that's kind of the thought behind it.
Done that. I've gone to wrecks out here. We're pulled up there and two paramedics in an emergency room, and they're standing there, and they had more stuff in their trunk of their car than we had on our fire truck.
Yes.
That's kind of embarrassing.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, and so it's not, I'm not asking to add to the budget or anything to that effect. I'm just asking to earmark unallocated money for that purpose.
I think it's an easy decision, in my
Well,
opinion.
and congratulations on your save. That is unheard of.
Very good. Yes.
Had a physician been there, they may have very well called it before
Yeah.
that
Well,
amount of time.
Jeff did an outstanding job and he deserves to be graduated, but I don't think he looks for the congratulations. He just,
Yeah, but I mean, the percentage, well, Bob knows how many times you can do that before you get one.
You carry IVs, fingers and saline?
well, Dr. Myers was talking about those aspects, not Dr. Myers, Jeff from him was talking about, we could carry those, but since they are perishable, you know, would have more cost. Is it worth carrying saline? But he said there's another device that essentially starts the line. So if somebody is going into cardiac or has a cardiac issue, we can start the line as a little bit of fluid that goes in there. So that way it's basically a drug line. So the line gets started, the IV is started. That way when meds can still be administered if they're in cardiac distress or they go, you know, have
Like
cardiac
a Hepburn
arrest.
lock?
Yes, exactly. So that's, we would carry that, yeah.
We have jurisdiction issues. I mean, as far as, but it's, if we respond, so what Ron's talking about on the fire department side, So we respond to between the tunnels and we go a long way out with,
Right.
but there comes a point where
Oh,
if something happens, it's a Frenchy draw, is the Shoshone police going to be dispatched? Are you guys just going to go on your own will, say, well, I've got something, I'll go?
So with the mutual aid, we're covered under mutual aid outside of our area. But for life-saving matters, things of that nature, it'd be the same scope that anyone in the state of Wyoming that's certified in Wyoming can give life-saving measures. But we would respond as mutual aid and assisting other agencies how we respond.
So what's?
But I'm talking here in Shoshone too. I'm not talking, I'm just
Yeah.
one
Sure.
example. But yeah.
There's conflict treatment, medical treatment, and a criminal scene. Have you discussed that in your mind?
The-
So you come to a scene, there's a medical issue, there's also a criminal issue.
Oh, yeah.
Have you discussed that in your mind?
Well, I don't think I really contemplated, but I think I can give you an answer.
Well,
Depending.
because it could arise easily.
You can't give medical treatment just like you can't unless the scene's secure. So if there is a crime that's afoot, we have to secure the scene first, whatever that may look like, and then render aid. If there's a criminal, some kind of foul play, whatever's going on there, we would definitely secure that. Worst case scenario, put them in handcuffs, throw in the back of the car, and then go deliver aid if it's just one officer. Or if we're there and then someone else responds, here's the equipment, you take care of that, I'm gonna take care of this. So something like that.
Because it could arise.
It absolutely could. Absolutely could.
will.
It probably will.
It will.
It has actually already. But,
Well, your ambulance isn't getting in there till it's secure either, so.
Is there always a police officer on duty?
well, we're 24 hours. So we're 24 hours on duty. We're about 20 hours active patrol. But we would be called out if we're not on active patrol. So
And will this come with an increase of certifications for each officer as far as are they required to perform these tasks, or?
At this time, they wouldn't be required to perform it. I know there's some departments that do require it, but I believe everybody currently in our police department wants to do this. They want to be able to do things. And like Jeff's, like I said, he's an intermediate. Andrew's a basic. I used to be when I was in the military. Matt, I think he could just scare him, bring him back.
Scare him to life.
Yeah, I mean,
Roar at him.
but it's also having the ability to bring the tools with us so somebody else that hasn't.
Well, in that part, I think you're onto something there, because the last call we had in the fire department, this what you're talking about is the same thing. It was a nasty situation. That's what people, what in the world are you doing here? Why don't you have this? I say, we're this is what we do. We're a volunteer fire department. You don't have this. Do you? Do you have it in the back of your pickup truck? So I get that. And so our perspective, I think you're right. If we had that, if somebody was on seeing this, says, I know how to use this thing, so great. Here it is in our truck.
Yeah.
Ron would know more why Fremont County Fire doesn't. They limit what we have on life-saving measures on a
They were
truck.
taking on more and more and more medical stuff, and it was burning people out, and they were losing firefighters, multiple fatality incidents involving kids and whatnot, and they just threw the ball back in the court of see, that was a long time ago, and I think that needs to be revisited. Because Keith Beach was with me, and this wreck I was talking about, we had body parts everywhere, and I had to tell the first person that approached me who was paramedic out of California, and he had a shirt on, CDF, so it's been a while. I said, stop, I cut up cars, that's all we do. And the first thing out of his mouth is, your expletive deleted, kidding me. I'm with you, but yeah, it's, not berating or bad-mouthing Dan or, our district chief or assistant, because they rode on a bus for years and years and years. But it was like the more they did, the more they were expected to do, and it just got to the part where it was something they couldn't do anymore.
And for us, we're going regardless, whether we're actually taking the actions or we're still going to try with our current, so adding any more to us. The beautiful thing is the training aspect for continuing education ports over to law enforcement education that we're required to have too. So we get kind of overlay those both the training. So it's not, wouldn't really add a lot of extra stuff to our plate that we're already doing, but it would give, definitely would be a force multiplier on what can be done.
Sure.
And we're gonna need it anyway. And plus, once we get the ambulance, you have the equipment.
Sure.
Right into that.
Yeah.
So. That's all I got.
Motion.
So the Lucas device that you're talking about getting,
Could you come speak up, please?
We can barely hear you guys.
Yeah.
okay, the Lucas device you guys are talking about getting, it does take, I mean, just a basic training. Who are you planning on? Because I highly, highly recommend that.
Yeah, my wife's actually a super user. I'm not advocating for my family, but she's a super user. That
She can teach?
Teach it, and there's
Oh.
other people that we bring in. 'Cause, yeah, you would have to be certified to be able to deploy.
Yeah,
So you're absolutely right.
but yeah, those things I absolutely recommend. I've seen them in work. It's amazing.
Isn't
And
it
the
a vest with a
ambulances-
thumper?
So it has
It's got a
basically
backboard that's kind of curved
Quick
and it looks like a giant plunger on the
Yeah.
front.
So you push a button or something and
Yep.
it
You
just
set the
goes.
depth, yeah, you set the depth and then you push play and it does this thing that tells you when to give breaths and it talks to you, but it allows the person that's
But it does
giving aid to be able to do other stuff to the patient. So if there's something else going on, they're only one person, they're not stuck just doing CPR. They can do other tasks.
You can secure your scene, you can start a line, you can, well, you guys can't start fully, but you can do everything you need to do because your hands are free and you're not exhausted during the process. Also, I was listening about the AED. Do you guys not offer BLS certification for all of your volunteers? So that they can run an AED?
That
Oh,
firefighters
we're
are.
all trained. Yeah,
Yeah,
all of us.
okay.
Yeah, we go through first aid, CPR, AED training.
Oh, okay, because it kind of sounded like some didn't know how to use it or something. So I don't know, maybe I was, because
No,
it's hard to hear you guys.
Sorry, yeah. We had AEDs that we were given that didn't function properly. And so it would drain the battery. You couldn't turn them off ever. And so it would drain the battery. And the 1, 2, 3 batteries takes 12 each. And so I guess you could stick batteries in before you used it. But we got new ones from the sheriff's office that gave us 2 that are better. They have battery packs and they provided us with all the equipment for it. But yeah,
Okay.
we're all trained and certified in AEDs.
Okay, well, I was meaning like the firefighters and
Oh,
stuff too.
that I don't know.
Oh,
That's kind of it's a different realm as far as what we're given some training. Everything comes back to you're a volunteer, do what you're comfortable.
that's kind of where I was at, is it at least offered if you wanted
Yeah,
it?
so we have a certification. I think it's every 2 years. We do it through Shoshoni School typically, and they give us a CPR. Like I said, there's some things that kind of like what Ron said, our overall
Okay,
job is to,
CPR is different. Yeah, that's basic. That doesn't teach the AED part, but
I think we do the AED as well.
The fire's very careful about having all their people to a point where they're not going to they can do something,
yeah,
but can still fall under Good Samaritans so that they're not exceeding the scope of their certifications.
okay,
So, yeah, it's kind of a
yeah.
tightrope
Yeah,
that they're
yeah,
walking
yeah,
there.
no, I get that.
Yeah.
I just kind of wondering on that one.
Yeah.
Okay, that's my 2 cents. Lucas is that shouldn't be skimped on. That's an absolute amazing device. So yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
I'm going to make the motion to do that because I'm on Medicare.
I'll second.
Is that a conflict of interest?
No, I've been hauled to the hospital once, and the rest of the time I drove walking on broken ankles, blood clots in your lungs and everything. And I'm not getting any younger. One of these days last time I had law enforcement at my house, all they wanted to do was kick in the front door while I was trying to crawl to it. So it'd be nice if they could do something a little more than that.
So the motion was to allocate $25,000 out of our ARPA funds that we we received for medical equipment.
No, I mean, I want to be fiscally responsible and not be spendthrifty all the time, but this is pretty.
We have a lot
This
of
is-
elderly
this is-
people in our town. We need to have
That's what I
this.
was trying to say without you calling me old.
Yeah. Can I have a second?
Second,
Okay, it's been moved by Councilman Ankeny, second by Councilman Weaver, that we allocate 25,000 of our ARPA funding towards medical equipment. Any further discussion? None being, all in favor, say aye.
I,
Opposed, the same. Motion passed. All 5 in the affirmative. Talk a little bit of that. I can just give it a heads up in the round. Department head report, police library.
I'll try and talk louder so Gary can hear me.
Thank you. I did all the way. Sit close.
There is an empty seat right here, Gary.
I'm good right here.
You look comfortable. So the police department is fully staffed. Everyone's done with training. That gives us 7 days a week of continuous coverage, which is 24 hours a day that we are responsible and we will respond. Active patrols consist of 16 to 20 hours a day, depending on where the overlap occurs. We try to overlap when there's more peak periods, so we have 2 officers off or on at one time. But to keep most of the day coverage, usually it's 1 officer separated, so we don't work together very often. But there are some days that we do overlap, like that Sunday when we did, for instance. As far as our equipment goes, due to the ongoing chip shortage that we're still encountering, the patrol vehicle is now expected to be delivered sometime in mid to late August. It's sitting completely built on a rail yard somewhere in Detroit or Mexico or wherever it's at, waiting for a computer chip. I maybe, I don't know. But they said that by late August, it should be here. So there's that. But that does present a little bit of a problem. So we are currently rotating our 2 vehicles back and forth, which could reduce some of our abilities in responding to certain things if they were to arise. The Crown Vic is still operational, and it is our last ditch effort for backup in worst case scenario, if something were to arise of that nature. But other than that, it's not being utilized due to the lack of air conditioning, overheating problems, and it's 100 degrees outside. Calls for service. The Shoshoni Police Department responded to 44 calls for service during the month of June. Reported 4 arrests, 2 of which were DUI and 2 were warrants. Currently, the police department has experienced a 45% increase in calls for service as compared to 2020, and a 41% increase as compared to 2019. I was kind of curious if the increase was due to COVID last year. So I went back a year prior, and we're just busier, apparently. Most of the increase is related to criminal activity, which has resulted in increasing investigation time, including time spent in court and the transportation of arrests down to Lander. And having only 1 officer at a time, obviously, that presents a little bit of a problem sometimes. The Shoshoni Police Department also issued 186 citations during the month of June, with community patrols, especially in the evening hours, being a priority on the side streets and in places around town where they're out of public view. Kind of going back on that curfew thing and juveniles being out late is kind of what we're targeting. We have noticed a decrease in teenage activity after 11 p.m. at night, which is a good thing. I've been approached by quite a few of our local kids that have expressed that they got the message that at 11 o'clock it's time to shut it down. And most have been abiding by it and staying out of trouble. At least during the last month.
I'll even shut it down for cops and robbers at 11 o'clock too when they're.
Yep. So I kind of already touched on the animal control a little bit. I just want to remind everybody, whether take it or not, it's hot outside, and just having your dog with water in the morning is not sufficient when it's 100 degrees outside. You need to make sure that you're continuously ensuring your dog has access to food and water throughout the day, and that we are going to enforce it. And dogs at large and not registered or tagged with the city, I'd say probably 30% of the animals I come in contact with don't have dog tags, haven't been registered. And we're going to start enforcing that. But the main reason we're going to enforce that is because if we come across a dog, I want to know who the owner is so I can contact the owner and get the dog back. But I don't know everybody's dogs. I don't know what Gary's dogs are, and I'm sure he's got some.
Put him down in January.
Well, okay. I know Jordan has some dogs, but I don't know what they look like. So having the tag gives us the ability to figure out who the owner of the dog is and contact them and get them back. Because dogs get out sometimes, and we want to get them back to their owners. It's not all about taking custody and citing them. And because I already touched on the rest of the animal control stuff, so that's pretty much all I got.
Thank you. Want to touch bases a little bit and move down to the round table. Town hall. It appears we've got a boiler issue, which isn't an issue now, but it will be this fall. Haven't had a chance to, haven't been able to get a, boiler master in here to take a look at it. Pardon? Oh yeah, I haven't got there yet, but we hope we don't have to spend a ton of money before winter to get that fixed, but we'll see. I'm assuming, I don't know that it's ever been replaced, so it's over 40 years old, but it developed a leak on us. And we'll have to investigate, see what that issue is. Also, I don't know how big a deal is. I haven't had a chance to get that looked at, but our last rainstorm, our roof leaked. So we're starting to have some issues with town hall. I don't know. We'll keep watching our price of building materials and stuff, but maybe I hate to spend a ton of money here and have to look again and where we'd be at on remodeling the new town hall. I just wanted to bring that up, make everybody aware of that. And I get a little better idea on where we're at, I'll be sure to get that passed on. But this all happened to us last week. Down Plaza, we had an accident over the weekend where we had a car veer off and get some of our new fence. But it'll be fixed. Nobody got hurt in the accident. So it's seemed to get utilized quite a bit. The other night we had when we was passing out the Citizen of the Year awards. There's 14 kids over there playing basketball. I'd like to announce that Chris Kojai was voted the Citizen of the Year, and there was a lot of voting going on. I was pretty happy with the number of votes that were cast, and I liked it. Chris was selected for that. Shoshoni Motel and Lip Rippers, we have closed on those properties and the town does now own them. So that puts in motion where we can start doing the mitigation of the first thing of the asbestos. And we're working on that. I talked to one of the mitigation contractors yesterday, called me. But we have an engineer, Tri-Hydro is running that project for us. So we'll be moving forward on that, and there again, get rid of those eyesores out of town and get them leveled and hopefully move forward with that property. I'd like to touch a little bit also on ambulance. We had, when this first looked like it was going to be an issue many months ago, we jumped on looking for an ambulance and went to the county commissioners and looking at what we need to do. Chris jumped into action and developed got us a medic, because we have your own medical or ambulance service. We have to have a director, got to be a doctor, so we do have one of them. Our initial conversation, Chris and I actually went to a county commissioner meeting and really didn't walk away with a warm and fuzzy feeling. I think we already reported that. And so we let the dust settle a little bit on the new company coming in, and then what happened Sunday brought me yesterday to call our county commissioner for our area, Larry Allen, and bring it up and tell him that, we sort of let the new company get in, but Shoshoni, we're going to move forward on doing something, because we need to get an ambulance for our citizens. We believe he did call back with me. He did meet with, and like to mention, Bo Weaver met him down in Arizona. Their director's from Arizona, but what a small world. But they did call back. Larry did call back near 5 o'clock, I guess. But they've softened some. They're willing to at least discuss the option, but we're going to still move forward because we don't know if their option is or what's going to be best for the town. And they said they may be open to station an ambulance here in Shoshoni. No personnel, we'd have to see, but that may be a possibility. But we got to just look at what all that's going to entail. Are they still going to be prohibitive where we can't have drivers? I mean, like the other, that was the problem. That's what drove away all the volunteers. So they wouldn't let anybody drive. And so I don't know, but we're going to meet with Commissioner Allen next week, early next week, Monday, Tuesday, I'm assuming, and kick around those options. But we're still moving forward, and we started looking at grants and stuff where we could buy our own ambulance. We're still going towards that, and I just wanted to give an update on that. We're still moving forward because I think it's pretty obvious we need an ambulance station in Shoshoni. Any questions? That's all I have. Councilman Ankeny?
Oh, we took care of that.
We're all good on that?
Yep.
Okay, do we have anything else from any other councilman?
I got something. On our brush pile, a lot of the townspeople want to keep it. If we need to move it out of town, we got to figure out how we can keep it. Maybe not have the pile so big, split them up, burn more. Only open it up a couple days a week to dump, or a couple times a month, whatever. But I think it's going to hurt the town not having it on its cleanup. And I'm getting a lot of people saying they want to keep it. So I don't know what we have to do it, but I think we need to research it instead of just letting it go. I understand why we had complaints. I mean, heck, that thing was as tall as Mount Everest. We can't have them that big. It needs to be burned more. So I don't know what all it's gonna entail. Maybe, you know, if we move it further back and only open it certain days, and if someone comes in there and dumps, let's have strict fees and fine them if we catch them. Not just a slap on the hand for $50, but nail it. The town needs it. Otherwise, you're gonna see people not cleaning out their branches and stuff. That's why it was big for a reason. People utilized it. And with us not having a landfill anymore, people are not gonna clean up the yards with it. I think that's a huge thing that we need to discuss further. That's it on that one. And then,
You're right, people talk to me about it as well.
you too?
Yes.
Yeah.
Me too.
Okay, good.
What we have some of the audience would like to talk about, address that.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
I agree with what you're saying. A tidbit, when Annie was down in Arizona for the Lost Dutchman, it's a state campground, big one.
Mhm.
We had a burn pit. The hole was about as big as this room. We burned it once a month. And this was green timber, the whole 10 yards, and it burned. We're getting it too big. When we first got there, first time we burnt that, this huge pile, well, it burned for a day. We set it up to where it burnt for so many hours, then we put it out. And their soil's a lot like here, pure sand. And would be one way to get around it is rig up something where there's a pit there. And when the pit gets so much over it, burn it. And they were constantly having to get permits from the EPA and those guys, but they would get them and they set up on a schedule. And usually once a month or maybe every 6 weeks would burn it. And it was easy. But that might be something you could do and look into.
No, perfect.
Instead of like you're
Appreciate
saying, making it so big.
any inputs, you know, great. We need to figure out how to just keep it open. I appreciate you coming up.
But I know there wouldn't be that much of a mess if you have a decent pit.
Mhm.
And once the pit gets close to the top, burn it.
In fact, the town hasn't had a pit just on the other side of the ice skating rink going east at one time. And it was fenced off with a chain link fence around it. And I don't know why they quit using that.
Yeah, that's,
I didn't Buddy address that?
I don't
I
remember.
don't remember.
I thought he did was because too much people dumping garbage in it. I think that was a big thing. Because
Well, that's why we need to
too
find
far,
it or
too
something.
far out of sight, out of mind, you know.
I live up there by it. It's a stinky mess. I don't mind it for a day. What the problem with the city is they let the dang thing smolder for 2 weeks. If they burn it, put it out, we got a fire department, trucks, all kinds of stuff. Stir it up, put it out, come back to it again later. It just sat there and burned and smoldered and it just polluted the air.
I agree.
I want to correct you, Councilman Weaver. We do have a dump. This one is full, but there is Riverton and Sand Rock.
Yeah, but people are not gonna drive it that far. That's all I was trying to say. One that's feasible for our town. Those are not,
That's all there is.
I know, and that's why I'm saying we need to keep this open because people are not gonna utilize it.
This one is full.
Okay, you're not understanding. I'm talking about for the branches. I'm talking for the branches. If we don't have a place for them, our town's gonna go backwards. We need to have it. We don't have the landfill capabilities here anymore to do that. If we take that away, we got ours closed. So
I have heard a handful of people mention that if it's gone away with, they'll just take their crap.
take it in the desert.
Down the middle of the road somewhere out in the middle of the night.
That's what I've been told too.
And so.
And that's all, we don't need that.
People are that lazy. But obviously that's the case.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I agree with what he was saying up here. We need to burn it more often and not for multiple days letting it smolder. I don't live by it and I smelt it. You know?
I smell it too.
So I'm just saying we need to we need to work together and just figure something out. Another thing is to me, the town's come a long ways. It's been a big challenge getting the community. One of the big challenges is getting the community to work together. I've reached out to 2 people, I'm not gonna use names, that I have had huge arguments over the whole time I've been on the council. And we've been talking, and we're gonna work on a few things that we agree on. And I know we're not gonna agree on everything, but if we just agree on a couple of things, maybe it won't turn into such a battle when we don't agree on one thing. I also feel that there's people in town that have seen the change, because we've got positive change. We have people that don't want change, and there's nothing, I can do to make them like me, because I do want the change. I like seeing the town the way it's going. But I think there's been people that didn't like how the change was going. They didn't think it was going to work, and they're seeing the big change in our town. And I think maybe they'd like to get more involved, but they might think, well, heck, I battled them on doing this, that, they might hold a grudge. I don't hold a grudge against anybody on any of this. If someone wants to come up and say, hey, Bo, I got this idea for this. If I don't like the idea, I'm going to say thank you anyways. I appreciate it. Keep coming at me with the ideas, and I'll present it to the people just in case I'm wrong on it. But either way, I want them to reach out, not just to me, but to everybody, and try and keep this town moving forward, because I think we're at a point now with this town that, yeah, we can bicker and stuff, but the town's moving forward, and I don't think it's going to stop. I think if we just keep doing what we're doing, the town's going to keep growing. I mean, it's just, there's big changes coming. I think the big battle right now, at least with me, is getting that communication going, and trying to get people that are afraid. There's a lot of people that don't even like to talk politics because they're afraid about getting their butts chewed and everything else. There's no reason to feel that way. They feel like there's going to be repercussion if they like Dimmick or they like me, and there's not going to be any repercussion from anything. We just need to just start working with each other, because the town is a better place. There's no way of looking at it any differently. It is a better place. I believe that accountability-wise, I was talking to a certain individual on accountability, and the town has done a lot, even with the new council, our old council. We're trying to clean things up, and people are starting to bring up, like, there's a lot of the townsfolk are cleaning their properties up, and they are trying to make a difference on them. And then we have some that, excuse language, they just don't give a damn. They're just going to let it overgrow and turn into whatever they want. And I think that, yeah, go ahead and serve them a citation and give them their warning. But I think they need to get nailed. If it's a senior citizen, someone with a handicap, then we work with them and try and help them. But if it's 18-year-old kids or 25-year-old, 35-year-olds or whatever, and they're just not doing it because they're lazy, well, I think something needs to be done on that. I just think that one of the big challenges right now is just getting because the community, I've got a Shoshoni chat room, actually, and it's pretty good size, and it could get a lot bigger. And all it is just people talking about the town. And I don't let people get carried away on it. It's just like, if there's a disagreement, disagree. Don't fight on there. Just express, what you want, what you want to see with the town. It's the communication. The town is waking up. It is waking up, and it can wake up a whole heck of a lot more. So I think we all need to just reach out a little bit more, even to the people that definitely aren't fans of ours, and just see if maybe we can agree on one thing instead of them being nervous to say a word because, well, hell, they've been fighting us the whole time. I don't care who it is. If they want to work with me, I'm going to work with them. If they got one, I don't care if they give me 10 things and I don't like any of them, still work. But if they have one idea that makes the town a better place, it sure was worth trying to communicate with them. So that's all I got.
Anybody, anything else? I'd just like to bring up one thing. I don't believe I forgot that we're gonna have speed trials in Shoshoni this weekend, Sunday. They're gonna be starting near the mushroom farm towards the cemetery. They're gonna travel west to the east. They'll be going against the speed gun as we talked about last council meeting. But we got everything put in together. We got some sponsors. We got liability insurance. We did all the good things. I went up to Graybull Saturday and looked at how they put on their race up there. We're doing something very similar to them, except they go side by side. We're speed trials, not races. It's just one vehicle going down the road by itself, much safer. We got 12 different classifications, anywhere from 4-cylinder cars to big, really fast, supercharged, powerful, fast vehicles, and about everything in between. Diesel pickups, gas pickups, 8 and 6 cylinders, SUVs. We got a lot of interest. Today I had calls from Wheatland, Lander, and Worland. People plan to come, so it's been pretty fast and furious to get it organized, but they are going to be here. The cemetery's closing down. There won't have anything going on that day. It's on a Sunday. And like I said before, the mushroom farm has just got maintenance in and out of there. Anybody needs to get in and out of, they just shut down the race and they can get on through. But should be a lot of fun. So anybody that wants to come out there's no charge for any spectators. Everybody's welcome to come. There's going to be some vendors out there selling some goods, and I think maybe might even have some hamburgers. Yes.
I was wondering if you're gonna have a Calcutta like a rodeo.
We something we didn't think of fast enough. That would have been a good idea, but that would have been a darn good idea. It should have been. But there's, like I said, there's going to be 12 classes. So there's a 4-cylinder car class. I mean, you got a Volkswagen, bring that thing out. And it's to make one run, it's $10. It's $30 to run all day. And we'll just cycle the cars in and get in line and run. And should be a lot of interest.
How about parking and that kind of thing?
We're probably gonna be doing some parking, maybe on the north, some of it on the north side, on the Mushroom Farms property. We gotta get, and we'll be parking down by the pits, and we'll have, the cars will be staging down there, and we may even have some vendors down there, maybe a vendor on, because we're gonna close 7th Street, from Maple Inn, then we'll be closing Herbst Lane. So they'll be running from west to east, so they'll get up to speed, slow down, and they'll go into Herbst Lane and get back in line and wait until we get all the cars ran that we have down there, and then we'll run a cycle, another group through. But should be a lot of fun. Like I said, there's going to be fast cars, there's going to be slow cars, I think, pickups. We got some people interested in SUVs. And then we got in SUVs and pickups, gas. We got 6-cylinder and 8-cylinder divisions both, and then we got a separate division for diesel pickups. We're going to require that if Farmer Brown or whoever brings their pickup in just from Mud Bog, and you're going to have to go get a bath before. We're not going to let someone come in dropping dirt and stuff on the track. That's not safe. We're going to make sure your tires are good. Tires are safe. You're not dripping oil, because you don't want oil on the track either. But should be a lot of fun. We've got a lot of interest for doing so fast. So
Steve Harless told me today he's been having people reach out to him more too.
We'll see you. Thanks for coming. That's all I gotta say.
I dare you to pick up a couple of California $1 million motorhomes and tell them you won't ticket them if they run a quarter mile.
It's, it's a 1/8 mile. We're racing. It's not a race, a speed trial. 1/8 mile. That's, is there nothing else? Kind of a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Councilman Ankeny, second by Councilman Weaver that we adjourn. Any further discussion?
Giving you a chance. Bo.
None being, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same. Motion passed 5-0.
8:54.